Hey Loom Knitters, it's Denise from LoomaHat.com, and this time we're making rib stitch flowers. Big hugs to Carol and Shanti for covering the cost of closed captioning. Okay, let's begin. We're going to secure the yarn to the anchor peg with a simple knot, and then we're going to zigzag through every other peg in order to do a drawstring cast on. And just for information, this is a 5-inch 24 peg small loom. When you get back to the front, go behind that first peg, and then you're basically going to take your working yarn and lay it right on top of your pegs, and you're going to knit off every peg with 2 loops. So it's basically every other peg, and just do a few of them at a time. Don't try to do them, place your yarn over all of them, because you're going to find that it gets kind of tight when you do that. In fact, at this point, it's a good idea to leave your working yarn a bit loose. Make sure that you knit off all of the pegs that have the 2 loops, like in this one, that you knit off. And then when you get back to that first peg, you're going to find that it only has 1. And so your yarn is just laying there. Go on and skip it. You're going to go to that second loop and knit off. Continue knitting this row, and keep in mind that we're using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch, and all that means is that you half wrap your peg as such and knit off. And you just keep going, like I said, all the way to that first peg on your loom, which in my case, it's the one with the little charm that tells me that that's the first peg. And when we get here, we're going to start the pattern, which is going to be a purl 1, which is to scoop the yarn from the bottom, create a new loop, take the old loop off, put the new loop on and pull, and then we're going to do 3 knits. So 1 purl and 3 knits, and here are my 3 knits, 1, 2, and 3, and my phone always rings when I'm doing a video. I tell you, I'm really not that popular. It just seems to happen as soon as I'm doing a video, like an announcement goes out or something. I don't know. What can I say? Just keep knitting. 1 purl, 3 knits, and again, I'm using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch because if you know me, you know that it's my favorite version of the knit stitch. Oh my, it's the fairies, and they're loose again. Just ignore them and keep knitting your purl 1, knit 3 to the end of the row. Very important, don't forget to remove the knot from the anchor peg after a few rows. Repeat the pattern for 13 more rows. We're going to end with 1 row of the knit stitch. So in my case, I have 24 pegs. I'm going to knit my 24 pegs. Now this gives me a total of 15 rows, not counting the cast on. When you're finished with your row, you're going to wrap your working yarn around the loom 1 time, cut it, and then we're going to start with this drawstring cast off. Bring the yarn under the loop and feed it through, and you're going to do this for every peg until you're back to the first peg on your loom. Once you've made sure that you fed the working yarn through every one of your loops, you're back to the front. With your hook, you're just going to remove the loops off of the peg. When you remove the fabric from the loom, it is going to look a little funky. That's just the nature of the stitch. You have to stretch them. And so you're grabbing the top and the bottom and stretching them, and then find either one of the drawstrings and just pull it. You want to pull it to close it, and you want to make sure that all of your loops have been pulled. So it might be necessary to go back a little bit, find some of those that didn't pull right and pull them, and then just close up your little circle, and that will be one end. You don't have to make a knot right now, just pull it nice and tight as close as it will get, and we're going to fill it with whatever you like to use for like your stuffed animals or pillows or whatever. In my case, I use some real cheap polyfill and it works good. Now just make sure that you close both sides, and you don't have to stuff it. Don't make it, you know, like really tough. It just needs enough to look puffy. And then make sure that you've tightened and closed those two sides. You don't need to make a knot, just make sure that they're closed. Then find a nice blunt needle. In my case, I've really grown to like the little metal needles. This one is from Lion brand. You can use the one that comes with your looms. I don't recommend it. You really are going to need a needle with some strength, because you're going to go through that polyfill all the way to the other end, and then you want to pull on it, because that's what's going to give the flower that puffy look. Now find one of the sections where you did the purl stitching. Right here you can tell because it's more open than the other one, and you're going to take your needle and you're going to bring it in and out. You're going to like weave it into that section. So in and out through the stitches, and pull, because we want to push those inward and almost like away from the knitted section. So once you've gotten all the way back, pull on your yarn, on your working yarn, and then you're finding the next row where you did purl stitches, and do the same thing. You're weaving in and out of the stitches on that section of the fabric, and pull on it again, bring it back to the middle and pull some more. And as you can see, it's changing the flower. Put it back in through the middle. You're always feeding through the middle and pulling on the yarn to tighten the working yarn and puff the flower. And we want to go through every one of the purl sections of the flower. In my case, I think there was 6. If you have a higher peg count, then you might have more rows of purl. It really depends on the number of pegs. And like I said, I believe in my case there are 6 rows. So I did mark mine on my loom, but regardless, you can tell the purl stitching from the knit stitches. If you're looking, they are just, you know, wider, and you can clearly see which rows are the purl. When you're done, it looks like this, and you'll have your 2 parts of your working yarn. You're gonna pull them and tighten and make a knot. This is where you're making a knot and just gonna finish closing up the flower. And here is where I put a button. That's my button. And for that, you are going to need a needle that is appropriate to your button. When you're done, you basically just take that excess working yarn and you cut. Ta-da! Your little flower is done. And stay tuned for the next video where I'll show you how to do the little leaf that's attached to the flower.